So I want to start a series of recommendation videos. As a nerd, I like hearing about what other nerds find interesting. Sometimes you find something new to read or watch. So I thought I would do that here. My taste is rather eclectic. But the first thing I want to recommend is a book. It's probably one of my favorite books ever. Everybody should read it. It's called The Book of Lost Things. Book of Lost Things by John Connolly. This is a fabulous book. Fabulous. I don't even know what else to say about how fabulous it is, other than it's fabulous. It's the story of a little boy whose mother dies at the beginning of the book, and he's really, really sad about it, and then books start talking to him. You know, he follows the whispers of the books, and he walks through this tree in his backyard and ends up in another world, and it's kind of a warped fairy tale. Although when you think about it, most fairy tales are warped. We're used to the Disney versions of fairy tales, but they weren't like that originally. Basically, the whole point of the story is he's stuck in this fairy tale world, and he has to get back to his own world. And he has to journey a long, long way and meet the king. Along the way, he meets characters you'll recognize, like the 7 dwarfs. It's to Sleeping Beauty's tower, surrounded by thorns, but it's not what you'd expect. It is a great read. I've probably read it 3 times already, and I've only had it a year. I cannot recommend it enough. I mean, it's a book, so it's not like you can see it, but it is violent. And so it was left to David to safeguard his mother's books, and he added them to those that had been bought with him in mind. They were the tales of knights and soldiers, of dragons and sea beasts, folk tales and fairy tales, because these were the stories that David's mother had loved as a girl, and that he, in turn, had read to her as the illness gradually took hold of her, reducing her voice to a whisper and her breaths to the rasp of old sandpaper on decaying wood, until at last the effort was too much for her, and she breathed no more. After her death, he tried to avoid those old tales, for they were linked too closely to his mother to be enjoyed, but the stories would not be so easily denied, and they began to call to David. They seemed to recognize something in him, or so he started to believe, something curious and fertile. He heard them talking, softly at first, then louder and more compellingly. These stories were very old as people, and they had survived because they were very powerful indeed. These were the tales that echoed in the head long after the books that contained them were cast aside. They were both an escape from reality and an alternate reality themselves. They were so old and so strange that they had found a kind of existence independent of the pages they occupied. The world of the old tales existed parallel to ours, as David's mother had once told him, but sometimes the wall separating the two became so thin and brittle that the two worlds started to blend into each other. That was when the trouble started. Read it. It's awesome. You won't regret it. If you have a favorite book, let me know in the comments. Tell me about it in a video response. I love to read, so I like getting recommendations because it's a lot easier to sort through the abundance of crap there is out there. Till next time. I think Merlin just killed Arthur.